system in generations. It is broad in scope, but its purpose is clear: to respond to modern forms of violence and exploitation, to intervene earlier, to protect victims and survivors, and to ensure our justice system works faster and more fairly. Bill C-16 does this through its 4 pillars: tackling gender-based violence and intimate partner violence, protecting children from predators, strengthening victims' rights, and addressing court delays. That work is urgently needed in Nova Scotia. Our province has some of the highest rates of gender-based violence in the country. Intimate partner violence, criminal harassment, and coercive control are persistent realities, particularly in rural and coastal communities that I help represent. In recognition of this, Nova Scotia became the first province in Canada to declare intimate partner violence an epidemic. That declaration reflected what survivors, advocates, and frontline workers have all known. This violence is systemic, patterned, and too often predictable. Bill C-16 meets that reality head-on. Under its first pillar, this bill takes decisive action to prevent violence before it becomes lethal. For the first time in Canadian law, it creates a new offense for a pattern of coercive and controlling conduct towards an intimate partner. Survivors have told us repeatedly that abuse is rarely about one single incident. It is about isolation, intimidation, surveillance, financial control, and psychological manipulation. These patterns strip away safely the autonomy long before physical violence appears. By naming coercive control as a criminal offense, Bill C-16 gives law enforcement and the courts a tool to intervene earlier when lives can still be saved. This bill also recognizes the severity of violence driven by control and fear by providing that murders committed in the context of coercive control, sexual violence, human trafficking or hate, femicide, when committed against a woman, is now going to be treated as a first-degree murder. And even where traditional planning and deliberation are difficult to prove, this reflects the lived reality of many of the intimate partner homicides that are not spontaneous acts, but the end point of long documented patterns of abuse. This bill further requires courts to consider life imprisonment for manslaughter committed in those same circumstances. Mr. Speaker, these reforms closely align with the work being done on the ground by organizations like Be the Peace Institute in Nova Scotia. Be the Peace focuses on root causes of gender-based violence, unequal power, rigid gender norms, and systems that fail to center survivors. This trauma-informed approach, feminist and intersectional approach, reminds us that prevention requires structural change, not just punishment after harm has occurred. Bill C-16 reflects the same understanding by recognizing patterns of control, of exploitation as violence in their own right. I'm also proud to have said that I was on the board of directors for Second Story Women's Centre in my riding, which supports women, girls, and gender-diverse people across the South Shore. Second Story provides counseling, advocacy, safety, and support within their community. And I've seen firsthand how many survivors, having endured years of coercive control that have never quite fit legal definitions before. Bill C-16 helps close that gap by aligning the criminal code with the realities that survivors and frontline workers have always understood. This bill modernizes the offense of criminal harassment, removing the requirement that a victim must prove they are subjectively feared for their safety, and replacing it with a reasonable personal standard. This change matters. It matters deeply for victims who are stalked, monitored, or intimidated. But those whose fear have been minimalized or questioned in the past. In terms of myself as an educator with youth, under its second pillar, BC16 strengthens protections for children and youth, particularly in an increasingly digital world. As a former educator, I want to speak clearly about this. In classrooms, we see the consequences of online exploitation every day. That anxiety, shame, isolation, and fear. This bill updates the criminal code to address harms that barely existed when many of our laws were written. It expands the offense of non-consensual distribution of intimate images to include AI-generated sexual deepfakes, recognizing how technology is being weaponized against young people, especially young girls. It criminalizes threats to distribute sexual abuse material. It directly addresses sextortion, which is one of the fastest growing forms of online exploitation in children. Bill C-16 also expands the child luring and sextortion offenses. It creates a new offense for recruiting a person a person under 18 into criminal activity. This is something I've seen hands-on, boots on the ground during my time as a principal. This bill seeks to strengthen mandatory reporting and data-driven preservation obligations for online service providers. These measures, Mr. Speaker, reflect how predators groom, manipulate, and exploit children today, often across multiple platforms and jurisdictions. The bill restores mandatory minimum penalties for child sexual offenses, while adding a safety valve clause to ensure constitutional fairness. This responds to years of legal uncertainty that weaken deterrence, accountability, for the most serious crimes committed against children. The third pillar of Bill C-16 focuses on strengthening victims' rights. The bill enhances the Canadian Victims' Bill of Rights by affirming that victims' rights to be treated with respect, courtesy, compassion, and fairness. Fairness, a key word here. It provides victims with information proactively, without requiring them to navigate complex systems or make formal requests. It expands access to testimonial aids. It clarifies victims' rights to protect impact statements at sentencing and parole. And it improves information sharing under Corrections and Conditional Releases Act. These changes, Mr. Speaker, respond directly to what victims have been telling us on all sides of this chamber, that the justice system can be re-traumatizing, confusing, and isolating. Organizations in my riding, like Thriving Together, a grassroots nonprofit working in southwestern Nova Scotia, see this every day. Thriving Together supports individuals and families affected by gender-based violence, addiction, and human trafficking.
I'm sorry to have to interrupt the member. The member will have 30 seconds left after question period, and of course an opportunity to answer questions. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Tayayakon, Parkdale High Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor a longtime member of this House, Jesse Fliss, who died earlier this month at the age of 92. Jesse lived to serve. Born in Saskatchewan to Polish immigrant parents, for more than two decades he served our community as an educator, including as principal of Argentina Public School, now Garden Avenue Public School in our riding. In 1979, Jesse heard the call to public service and was elected 4 times to serve the people of Parkdale High Park. In his almost 15 years as our Liberal Member of Parliament, Jesse was a champion of human rights, in particular for the emancipation of Polish people during their struggle against communism. And he was a driving force for the recognition of the National Flag of Canada Day, a flag whose 61st birthday we will celebrate on February 15th. After his retirement, Jesse served as chair of Copernicus Lodge on Roncesvalles Avenue, serving seniors, especially Polish background, with their healthcare needs. Jesse did all things in our riding and in this place with a strong spirit of mutual respect and a love of Canada. He leaves his wife Sophie and a large family, including 8 great-grandchildren. With them, we share our condolences and our thanks for sharing Jesse Fliss with us.
The honourable member for Chatham-Kent-Leamington.
On February the 4th, my parents, Abe and Susan Epp, will celebrate their 65th wedding anniversary. The world has changed in extraordinary ways since 1961. Humanity has landed on the moon and has survived a Cold War. Canada adopted its flag, and global adoption of the internet and mobile phones has transformed how people connect, work, and understand the world. Daily life today would be nearly unrecognizable to the young couple that began their journey all those years ago. Changes often arrive faster than anyone expected, and while technology and all facets of society have shifted, my parents built a life rooted in commitment, adaptability, and love. Their story reminds us that while the world may change at breathtaking speed, the values that truly matter, partnership, resilience, and care for one another, can endure and still give us hope and optimism for what lies ahead. Colleagues, please join me as I congratulate my parents on 65 years of space travel, smartphones, and surviving each other.
The honourable member for Guelph.
I rise to honor a hero, William Joseph Seifert. Bill joined the Army at 18 and trained as a gunner at Petawawa, but when he deployed to London, England, new recruits were made infantry. Bill became a Regina rifleman without training, was sent to the front in France. He fought through France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, and served as a reconnaissance scout in Germany. By quickly returning a grenade, Bill saved his platoon at Leopold Canal. In peace as in war, Bill's service and kindness never wavered. He gave his all to his family and community and his comrades at the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 234, where he was a member for 78 years. In 2024, Bill proudly represented the Reginas at the unveiling of a rifleman statue in Normandy with Her Royal Highness Princess Anne. On May 3rd, 2025, he celebrated his 100th birthday at the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands. Seeing this country peaceful touched him deeply. On December 22nd, Bill passed away. William Joseph Seifert, Canada thanks you, we remember.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
Today, I rise in solidarity with the brave people of Iran. Over the past few weeks, hundreds of thousands of Canadians have joined solidarity rallies across the country, including in Richmond Hill, where tens of thousands have gathered braving the cold winter storms to stand on the side of freedom. In recent weeks, tens of thousands of Iranians have been massacred, with many more injured and arrested by a regime that rules through fear. Fear of speaking, assembly, and simply being free. And yet, despite the executions, the beatings, the blackouts, and the bullets, the Iranian people continue to stand. They refuse to be silenced, knowing the cost, but believing freedom is worth it. The regime can shut down the internet, but it cannot shut down courage. It can imprison demonstrators, but it cannot imprison hope. Yet here at home, the Liberals offer empty words instead of action. To the people of Iran, you are not alone. The world sees you. Canada's Conservatives and Canadians stand with you. Your struggle is just. Your sacrifice will not be in vain, and your future belongs to you, not the tyrants. Today, the world watches. Tomorrow rises a free Iran and an Iran whose future belongs to its people.
I would remind the member we're not supposed to be using props. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. After a few weeks in our ridings and a break from parliamentary business, we're back in the House of Commons, ready for a new year of work. I'd like to wish all of my colleagues a very happy new year. In 2025, we delivered tangible results, a more resilient economy, strategic investments to strengthen our industries, and clear measures to protect Canada's interests. We've chosen to take action, and we are strengthening our economic sovereignty. And we are supporting innovation here at home. As we begin this session, the message is simple. We will continue to invest, continue to protect our country, and continue to move forward with a strong Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Prince Albert.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe for not letting the Prime Minister sacrifice canola and pulse producers. Saskatchewan farmers know that market access to China has been low on the list of priorities for these Liberals. Thankfully, the Premier understands the simple truth. If you want to grow the Canadian economy, you must sell to the world. While the Premier is doing his part, the same cannot be said about this Liberal government. Trade deals are as strong as logistic networks supporting them. Exporters continue to face congested ports, limited rail capacity, and aging infrastructure. Years of underinvestment and regulatory delays have made Canada an unreliable supplier in the eyes of our trading partners. If the Prime Minister truly believes in expanding access to global markets, he must commit to serious, sustained modernization of our ports, rails, and export infrastructure. Saskatchewan knows how to sell to the world. Government must now do its part to expand markets.
The honourable member for Kanata.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the extraordinary courage of the Iranian people who continue to stand for their dignity, their freedoms, and their fundamental right to determine their own future. The Iranian regime's brutal use of violence, arbitrary detention, and intimidation against peaceful protesters must end. Here in Canada, many Iranian Canadians are watching these events unfold and are heartbroken, worried for loved ones, grieving for those lost, and longing for a future free from fear. Canada's position is unequivocal. We condemn the Iranian regime's ongoing abuses and are in close coordination with our international partners to hold those responsible to account. To the people of Iran and to Iranian communities here in Canada, you are not alone. Canada stands with you. We hear your voices and we will not look away. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Elgin St Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tens of thousands of Canadians have been reaching out to members of Parliament over the winter break, telling the Liberals to set aside their divisive and toxic Bill C-9 and to stand up for the fundamental rights and freedoms of Canadians. I am pleased to report that today at the Justice Committee, we were finally able to get the Liberals to agree to set aside this divisive bill and focus on addressing real crime affecting communities across the country. Canadians have been demanding real action, fixing the broken Liberal bail system, addressing the rise in car thefts and extortion, going after people that are wreaking havoc on streets in this country, not people who dare to express a religious belief the government finds objectionable. Conservatives stand ready as always and look forward to working to fix this broken justice system in Canada. I'm glad the Liberals finally joined us.
The
honourable member for La Pointe-de-L'Île. Mr. Speaker, Quebec lost one of its great patriots. Jean Dorion passed away after a lifetime devoted to the cause of Quebec independence. First, he was with the early independence party, RIN. Then he was a founding member of the Parti Québécois. Jean Dorion was chief of staff under René Lévesque, responsible for key issues such as immigration and enforcing the charter of the French language. He chaired the Société Saint-Jean-Baptiste in Montreal, where I had the honor of working alongside him. He represented our nation as Quebec's delegate to Japan, then as a member of the Bloc Québécois here in Ottawa. Jean Dorion fought for his entire life for our language and culture, and for a Quebec that would reach out to everyone. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to offer my condolences to his wife, to his 5 children, and to all of the independence activists who are carrying on his fight to make Quebec a country. The honourable member for Honoré-Mercier.
Speaker, I rise today to welcome members back to this House and mark the beginning of the new year. We are living in a time of profound global uncertainty. International rules are being challenged, long-standing institutions are under strain, and we are witnessing the emergence of power vacuums and growing instability across regions. In moments like these, Canada must be clear about who we are and what we stand for. This House must come together above partisanship to defend the sovereignty and independence of nations. Mr. Speaker, residents in my riding of Honoré-Mercier have been clear that Canada or Greenland or Denmark belong to them and to them alone. We must stand firm in defense of our sovereignty. Canada will always remain a proud independent nation. Because as Prime Minister reminded us, we have the capacity to build our strength at home and to act together. And Canada thrives because we are Canadian. I call on all members of this House to act together to defend Canada's sovereignty. Thank you.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
The Prime Minister recently flew to Davos, where he spoke to global elites at the World Economic Forum, and he said that a country unable to feed itself, fuel itself, and defend itself has few options. Here at home, Canadians need action, not carefully crafted speeches. Food inflation is up over 6%, and a record number of Canadians line up to use a food bank every single month despite those empty words. The Liberals fast-tracked Bill C-5 to get major projects built, and yet nothing has been built, and the hope of a pipeline is fading very fast. Our armed forces are under-equipped and are in the midst of a recruiting crisis after 10 years of woke Liberal policies. Talk is cheap, Mr. Speaker. Canadians deserve real action, not carefully crafted words for the elites at Davos.
The honourable member for Milton East, Halton Hills South.
Mr. Speaker, recently I held a town hall in my riding to discuss our government's proposed legislation on public safety, including Bill C-14. This discussion was frank, emotional, and deeply personal. What was clear is that my constituents want action. They are concerned about public safety, they expect results, and they expect Parliament to do its job. Many residents asked why progress has stalled and why bills remain tied up in committee. They are frustrated, and they are right to be. Our government is responding to real concerns raised by communities, victims, and law enforcement. The delays are occurring in committee where an opposition party has chosen obstruction over collaboration. Prolonged procedural delays and filibustering do not make communities safer. They do not help victims. They do not reflect the urgency that Canadians are demanding. Canadians are asking us to work together and to deliver results. Bill C-14 is one important step towards strengthening public safety, and it deserves to move forward. It's time for the opposition to work constructively in committee so Parliament can deliver the action our communities are demanding.
The honourable member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
While the Prime Minister delivered her speech pointing out the gaps between rhetoric and reality on the world stage, the reality here at home is that Canadians can't eat speeches. Our food inflation is the highest in the G7, and the bill is in. Food costs are now up 6.2%, with groceries up 5%, and restaurant meals up 8.5% year over year. The PM's $78 billion deficit has turned Canada into the food inflation capital of the G7. Instead of delivering affordability, he insists on blaming tariffs from the US, which don't even apply to food costs in Canada. A quarter of Canadian households are considered food insecure, with over 2 million people visiting food banks in Canada monthly. And now it is estimated that a family of 4 will pay $1,000 more this year to eat. One thing is clear: only Canada's Conservatives will put an end to Liberals' food inflation.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to wish all of my colleagues a good start to the new session. I took advantage of this break to return to my riding of Longueuil-Saint-Hubert to meet with businesses and community organizations. And everyone was very clear with us. They said continue to govern responsibly and coherently, even if that takes courage. They said, we're proud of you. Please continue the excellent work. And they said that to the Prime Minister. I would also like to take the opportunity to underline an unfortunate event. Last Friday, we learned that the former Member of Parliament, Jean Dorion, had died. He represented the riding of Longueuil-Pierre Boucher at the time, which is now Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Regardless of political allegiance, we all recognize his commitment to public service. Thank you.
Cloverdale, Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has basically just admitted he's failing on affordability. It's so bad, he just had to announce another temporary boost to the GST credit. If prices were actually under control, Canadians wouldn't need another recycled Trudeau-era rebate to put food on the table. Canada now has the highest food inflation in the G7. Food bank use is at record levels, with millions of Canadians relying on emergency food just to feed their family. A tax rebate helps momentarily, but does nothing to address what is actually driving food costs. Carbon taxes on fuel and fertilizer, clean fuel standard, industrial carbon taxes built into every step of the supply chain. The Prime Minister once told Canadians to judge his government by the price at the grocery store, but that measures his policies have failed miserably, and no tax gimmick can hide.
The honourable member for Cardigan.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Canada's National Heritage Fair winners. Projects that highlight the curiosity and learning among our youth across this nation. One of the winning projects by Cora Lukman focused on women in farming. It celebrates the strength, the leadership, and the legacy of women in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, picture a young girl holding a bag of PEI potatoes, grown by her aunt in North Lake, packed by her grandfather just down the road, and sold by another aunt in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. This farm-to-table supply chain is rooted in family tradition that has sustained a seventh-generation farming family for over 150 years in PEI. Her grandfather summed it up best. He said, "My daughters are smart, they care about the land, and they work hard." That's what makes a good farmer. Today, 1 in 3 farmers in Canada are women. Wow. And more than half of all new farmers in Atlantic Canada are women. They're shaping the future of Canadian agriculture and inspire the next generation.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Canadians deserve affordable groceries. But today, we have learned that food inflation in Canada is by far the highest in the G7. It's growing twice as fast as in the U.S., and food inflation has doubled since this Prime Minister came to power. These are, if it truly were external factors behind this, we wouldn't be the worst in the G7. When will the Prime Minister reverse his deficit inflationary taxes so that Canadians can have affordable groceries? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to be back, and this Monday we have good news. The Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefits will help 12 million Canadians. And my Conservative friends are happy in their hearts, Mr. Speaker, because they know this represents roughly $1,800 for a family of 4 and roughly $950 for a single person this year. The Liberals support this and Canadians do. Will the Conservatives do as well?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after food inflation has doubled under this Prime Minister, and with the worst food inflation in the G7, the checks that the Liberals are announcing today won't even pay for just one grocery shop. Yes, the reality is that the average family will have to spend $17,000 a year for grocery costs. When will the Prime Minister reverse his taxes and inflationary deficits so that Canadians can eat? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, first and above all, we would like to all express our solidarity with the Leader of the Opposition in this decisive week for him. I am certain he'll be able to convince a majority of his constituents to support his leadership. Second, we welcomed his openness with respect to the legislative measures before this House. And there is a bill that is the Prime Minister's plan for our economy to create jobs and opportunities in Canada. Can he give us a date when we'll be able to vote at third reading of the Budget Implementation Act?
Speaker, Canadians deserve affordable groceries, but under this Prime Minister's watch, food price inflation is the highest in the G7. It's twice as high as in the States, twice as high as when he took office. He can't blame global factors when it's rising faster than any other G7 country. The real cause is his rising taxes on farmers.
I'm going to allow the honourable leader of the opposition to start that question over. I mean, we need guys. Start it over there. Start it over there. The honourable member of the opposition. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian people deserve affordable groceries. Liberals might laugh that off, but they've given Canada the worst food price inflation in the G7. It's rising twice as fast here in Canada as in the United States of America. 2.2 million people lined up at food banks. And since this Prime Minister said that he would make groceries affordable, the inflation rate has actually doubled. Will the Prime Minister finally reverse his inflationary deficits and taxes so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we certainly want to wish the Leader of the Opposition well in this very decisive and important week for him, and we know that he will have success at his party's convention.
Best of luck. We're rooting for you.
The Prime Minister's plan to grow our economy, to create $1 trillion in investment, and to protect our workers and our industries from trade threats is before this House, Bill C-15. Now, we take very, very well the Leader's openness on working with us on legislation. Can he give us a date, just a date, the next words out of his mouth, give us the date where we can have third reading on the BIA, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of solidarity, why won't they agree with the Canadian people that we should get rid of all the hidden taxes that they've imposed on groceries? There's the Liberal fuel standard tax, which is 7 cents a litre on farmers, truckers, and those who bring us our food. There's the industrial carbon tax on farm equipment and fertilizer. All of this has given Canada the worst food price inflation in the G7. Our food costs are rising twice as fast as in the United States of America, and now they promise to recycle a Trudeau-era rebate that won't even cover one trip to the grocery store, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I know that it's a particularly challenging week for the Leader of the Opposition, but let me help him because today we have good news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. It's called the Canada Grocery and Essentials Benefit, Mr. Speaker. I know in his heart he's rejoicing, Mr. Speaker, because he's been asking questions in this House. Now we have delivered for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. The real question, all the Liberals MP are going to vote in favor. Canadians are in favor. Will the Conservative be good for their word and vote with us to help Canadians?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, only the Liberals would look at the $17,600 that the average family has to spend on groceries and say that it's a time to rejoice. They say that Canadians should be grateful that to be lined up in record numbers at the food bank. They think Canadians should thank them for having the highest food inflation in the G7, twice as bad as the United States of America. They think that Canadians should give Liberals gratitude for having double food price inflation since this Prime Minister was elected, promising to be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Why won't they reverse their Liberal taxes and debt so we can...
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, it's a good news for Canadians who are struggling today. In fact, up to $1,900 more for a Canadian family to help with those costs of living that the Conservatives have been talking about all fall, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the MP from Edmonton, Manning, told a story about Enid, who is struggling with the cost of groceries. Is he going to vote against Enid's desire to have more money to buy groceries?
Wow. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the reality is that Eden is paying, and his family are paying a record high price. If Eden is part of a family of 4, that family will spend over $17,000 on groceries this year. That's $1,000 more than they did last year. That's the fastest increase in the G7. And now the Prime Minister has revived a Trudeau-era rebate, which will let pass, that will barely cover a few trips to the grocery store, while the average family spends $17,000+ Why doesn't the Liberals stop increasing grocery prices by getting rid of their inflationary deficits and taxes on food?
Hear, hear.
The
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the Leader of the Opposition is a bit concerned about the week ahead, but let me quote a letter he sent us on January 24th, Mr. Speaker. We wouldn't assume that it would be good for his words. He said, if you have other ideas that make food affordable, we will fast-track them, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have good news for him. It's called the Canada Grocery and Essentials Benefit, Mr. Speaker, helping 12 million Canadians. The question we have on this side, will he stand up in this House? Will he be good for his word and support 12 million Canadians that are expecting this government and this House to support them?
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers and French Canadians learned something new last Thursday. According to the Prime Minister, the Battle of the Plains of Abraham was not a conquest by the English, it was the beginning of a great partnership. According to him, the ancestors of Quebecers and English Canadians rose from the battlefield that morning and said to each other, "Guys, let's stop fighting, celebrate our differences, and build Canada." Mr. Speaker, if the Prime Minister wants to create some new heritage minutes, will he review his history rather than rewrite it? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, English Canadians and French Canadians built a very great country, one that is the best in the world. We created great prosperity and mutual respect for our official languages and human rights, Mr. Speaker. No one, not the Bloc, will minimize this accomplishment. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to work with what concerns Quebecers, i.e. affordability, job creation, prosperity creation together, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, if you listen to the Prime Minister, when French was banned from being taught in the Maritimes, in Manitoba, in Saskatchewan, in Alberta, and in Ontario, it wasn't to erase us, no. It was to bring us together. When Quebecers were excluded from power and business, it was for their own good. When the founder of Canada said that Louis Riel would be hanged even if all the dogs in Quebec barked in his favour, we just misrepresented his love of pooches. Mr. Speaker, when is this Prime Minister going to learn our history for real? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, she's talking to a Government House Leader that is the proud ancestor of Scottish immigrants who studied in French in Prince Edward Island, who did his undergrad at the Acadian University in Moncton, and who lives his life in French, and who was elected 4 times in a riding that is 90% francophone. That is possible in Canada when we have mutual respect between Anglophones, and we've created the best country in the world. Vive le Canada. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, a little reminder historically. There's a reason why these questions are being asked in a parliament here in Ottawa. It's because English speakers preferred to burn down the parliament in Montreal rather than compensate French Canadians who had their farms burned during the 1837 rebellion. What a terrible partnership. The Liberal lieutenant from Quebec defended the Prime Minister by saying that it was just a different perspective on history. Well, history is facts, not opinions. So instead of defending these alternative facts from the Prime Minister, will we teach him our history? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I've noticed that my Bloc colleagues were talking about history, but I can tell you one thing that Canadians want to talk about and Quebecers want to talk about. That's talking about their city. Right now, those people in my riding in Quebec, they want a government that is building the future. They want investment and support for families because Quebecers' first priority is affordability. And today, we're showing up with the Canadian grocery benefit to put food on the table. We'll always be here to defend Quebec and Quebecers.
Join a Capel. The Prime Minister asked to be judged on inflation on grocery prices. Well, food inflation has doubled to the highest in the G7 and has doubled the U.S. rate. This is a homegrown problem of high Liberal taxes on farmers, fertilizer and food processors, and rampant inflationary deficits. Today's recycled Trudeau-era rebate will barely cover one trip to the store for the average family. They now need to spend over $17,000 a year on groceries. It didn't work when Trudeau tried it. Prices kept rising. There's nothing in today's announcement that will make anything cost less. So instead of temporary measures, why not permanently scrap Liberal hidden taxes that drive up food costs?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while that leader focuses on hanging on to his leadership, we're focused on affordability for Canadians. Our new groceries and essentials benefit will help more than 12 million Canadians with food inflation. That's $1,900 for a family of four, Mr. Speaker. It's time for the Conservatives. It's time for Canadians to tell Conservatives to stop the obstruction. Let's build Canada together. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Your plan didn't work for Justin Trudeau. I don't know why they think it will work today. And earlier today, the Prime Minister tried to blame inflation on global factors, but all the other countries in the G7 have lower food inflation than Canada. The Liberal fuel standards tax didn't invade us from another country. That already adds 7 cents a litre and is set to rise to 17. The industrial Liberal carbon tax didn't come from away either. Working families who can't afford beef know that today's announcement won't even cover one trip to the grocery store. So why not stop trying recycling failed Trudeau policies and adopt common sense Conservative measures to scrap Liberal taxes on food?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of recycling, we've got the 2015 playbook here in 2026, and it's just not going to work. Canadians know that the environment, economy, trade, reconciliation, these are all related, and Canadians in Conservative ridings expect better than obstruction and speak and spell politics, where we get one of 5 answers to every problem. Listen, on this side, there's new programs for affordability, economic growth, building big things, and this is a big moment for this country. I invite the members opposite to join us to see the world as it is and to build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Canada is first in the G7 for food inflation. Canada's food inflation is double the U.S. at 6.2%. Essentials like lettuce, beef, baby formula, and apples are all hit with Liberal inflation. Conservatives will fast-track any proposal that will reverse having the highest food inflation in the G7. That includes eliminating the industrial carbon tax, Liberal fuel standards, cutting red tape, and boosting competition. Will the Liberals introduce this immediately?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture
Thank you, Mr.
and
Speaker.
Agri-Food.
Mr. Speaker, our government is focused on delivering support where it's needed. I can't understand why the opposition is so against that, Mr. Speaker. By taking action now, we're helping farmers manage essential costs, improving affordability, strengthening a more resilient food system, Mr. Speaker. 12 million Canadians are going to be affected by this, Mr. Speaker. It's going to help our domestic production, it's going to help our farmers and ranchers, and it's going to help our economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary East.
Giving Canadians the money back the Liberals took from them in the first place doesn't lower grocery costs. The Prime Minister can't blame global factors either, when all other G7 nations have lower food inflation than Canada does. Liberals raise taxes on farmers, fertilizer, food processors, all while doubling the deficit. Will the Liberals reverse these failed policies, or is having the highest food inflation in the G7 the only Liberal promise they're willing to keep?
The Honourable Minister for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Well, the party of no, Mr. Speaker, keeps standing in the way of bringing down the cost of living for Canadians. We're saying yes. Today, the groceries and essential benefit will give 12 million Canadians support to put food on the table, saving the average family of 4 almost $1,900 and the average individual almost $900. We're saying yes to supporting families. We're saying yes to making life more affordable. We're saying yes to real solutions. Why doesn't the party of no support Canadians and start saying yes as well?
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands.
The Prime Minister said a country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. And he's right. And Canadians are looking for the Prime Minister's words to match his actions. Now, tomorrow, Conservatives are going to introduce a motion to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act. It's going to cut taxes, and it's going to let investors invest and builders build. The question is very simple at this critical time for our country. Will the government say yes, and will they support the Canadian Sovereignty Act?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there is a bill before this Parliament that lets investors invest, that lets builders build, and in fact attracts $1 trillion, with a T, trillion dollars of investment in our country that will protect our workers and build our industries. It is the Budget Implementation Act. Now, Canadians in Conservative ridings are telling us they want this Parliament to work, that they want to endorse the Prime Minister's plan to create growth in this country. Can that member give us a date, just a date, where we will have third reading and pass the Prime Minister's plan for prosperity in Canada?
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister seems open to our proposal to move faster to help Canadians. That's fantastic. But he's also promised affordable groceries for Canadians. On this side of the House, we're eager to quickly pass proposals aimed at reversing food inflation, such as measures that stimulate competition in the food chain. Tomorrow, we'll table a motion to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act. Will your government table legislation to reduce the cost of groceries? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to rise and wish everyone a Happy New Year. And it's already a good year for Canadians today. More than 12 million Canadians will see their purchasing power increase. That's what they need to face rising prices in grocery stores, greater purchasing power, and that's our objective. I hope my colleagues will support us in this action. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, we already said we'd pass this, but we need to go further. And it's time to reward businesses and workers who build and invest in Canada, and we must protect Canadian innovation. We are proposing creating a tax credit for reinvestment in Canada to stimulate domestic industrial activity, and protecting Canadian innovation by requiring the Minister of Industry to present a plan to prevent the sale of Canadian innovations, discoveries, and innovations to other countries. Will you support our motion and introduce a bill to this effect?
Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Bonjour, tout le monde.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year, Mr. Speaker. We're working together on new measures to help families and to put food on the table. In my riding, a single mother of a family will see her purchasing power increase, and also there'll be measures to help her buy shoes and pay for daycare after school. It won't just be helping people in my riding, but also it'll be the same thing on the other side of the House in their ridings. So I would ask them to work with us. And inaudible. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, it was on a sunny day in September 1759 that the beautiful partnership between the French and the English began. This beautiful friendship, born on the plains of Abraham, would give rise to moments filled with affection: the ban on French in schools, the hanging of the Patriots, the Durham Report, the execution of Louis Riel, the Quebec City riot during conscription, the War Measures Act, the Night of the Long Knives, and the failure of the Meech Lake Accord, and so on. Could it be that this Prime Minister is unfamiliar with the history of Quebecers and Francophones? He has no knowledge of it in Canada. The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to wish a Happy New Year to the Bloc, or their militant arm of the Parti Québécois. Well, I think what bothers them the most is the Prime Minister's message was a national one. But I'd like to ask them a question. Did they ask permission from Mr. Plamondon to ask their question? Because he's going to move on to something else. He is having an argument with the bonhomme of the Quebec Carnival. You can't invent that. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, They're rewriting the facts. It's contagious and spreading through the entire Liberal caucus. And according to the Prime Minister, Montcalm declared on his deathbed, "I die disappointed because I will not live to see the surrender of English in Quebec. The truth is that we were conquered, and since then the federal government is just trying to keep us in line. But the Prime Minister has chosen to rewrite history, assuming that Quebecers do not know it. And instead of spouting nonsense about the Plains of Abraham and insulting our intelligence, what is the Prime Minister waiting for? To pick up a book and learn a bit more about Quebec. It's about time." The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers have been telling us out loud to work on affordability and help them make ends meet at the end of the month, to take efforts on rent, on lodging, and to protect our industries such as softwood lumber, aluminum, and in general, to prevent them from tariff threats in a very complex world while still protecting their culture and language, Mr. Speaker. And that is what the federal government and the Liberal Party are doing this year.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Stats Canada confirms what Canadian families already know at the checkout. Food inflation has jumped by 6.2% in the last year. Grocery prices are up 5%, and Canada now has the highest food inflation in the G7. Newfoundland and Labrador has the second highest food inflation rate in the entire country, and higher transportation costs mean local families are hit even harder. Conservatives are ready to fast-track measures to bring food prices down. So will the government eliminate the industrial carbon tax and the 17 cents a litre fuel standards tax so Canadians can afford the basics?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
And I wish the member opposite, the opposition member from Newfoundland and Labrador, Happy New Year. And I want to just give a couple of stats. The Canada groceries, an essential benefit, specific for our province. A family of 4 this year will get over $1,890. And then the next 4 years, $1,400 a year. A single person, $950 with the top up, and then $700 going forward. Her constituents are telling me they want action, stop the obstruction, and work for the people.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
We are ready to work with the government on real long-term solutions instead of recycled temporary Trudeau-era rebates. Canada has been called the food inflation capital of the G7. Mr. Speaker, that's real hardship. People back home ask me, how far does this have to go before it stops? The Prime Minister can't blame global factors when all other countries have lower food price inflation than Canada. It's a homegrown problem of high Liberal taxes. So will this government focus on actually bringing down food prices, or will it defend policies that make food more expensive?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, and I'll tell you what's recycled. And the tired notes that the Conservative members, and from Newfoundland and Labrador as well, just continue to repeat. The point is they consistently vote against support that help families, help the people that they talk about in their ridings, that I hear from, that want them to support. Stop the nonsense, work together, and let's grow Canada.
The member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is now the inflation capital of the G7. Food prices are rising faster than families can keep up, twice the rate of the U.S. And recycled Trudeau-era rebates do not fix the problem. Canadians can't eat the paper on which this Prime Minister's empty promises are written. Restaurants are being squeezed out of business with higher food costs, and Canadians are cutting back because they can't afford to eat. Conservatives are ready to work on long-term solutions Canadians can feel at the checkout, like cutting the industrial carbon tax and the fuel standard tax to bring prices down. Will the Prime Minister work with us, or does he consider the food bank the new order of fine dining for Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, $1,900 per family is real money that will help Canadians pay for groceries, pay for schools, pay for their activities for their children, Mr. Speaker. Canadians in Conservative-held ridings want to benefit from this support from our government. Right. Why are the Conservatives blocking systematically every time we want to help Canadians?
Honorable
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, it's expensive to eat in Canada, and it costs a lot more here than elsewhere. There's no other country in the G7 where it costs more to eat than in Canada. Ground beef, you can't afford it anymore. It's 70% more expensive. Apples are up by 10%, lettuce by 13%, oranges up by 15%, ground coffee 42%. Mr. Speaker, is the Liberal government in the tomato business? Because that's the only thing that's gone down. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, coming from a star on Infoman, I'm not surprised to hear that question, Mr. Speaker. But, you know, I have a lot of admiration for that colleague, but he's a bit behind. He's a few days behind because now we have the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. Young people are happy about it, Mr. Speaker, and I know that in his heart the member is happy that we have it as well. But is he going to rise in this House and help the 12 million Canadians vote in favour of that measure and say that the Liberal government's doing good things for Canadians? The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, you don't buy votes, you earn them. The most recent data shows that food inflation is up by 6.2%, putting Canada first place in food inflation in the G7. The Prime Minister can't blame the rest of the planet. This is a homegrown problem caused by high Liberal taxes on our farmers. Mr. Speaker, will the government immediately commit to tabling a law which will eliminate the hidden taxes on food? The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services. Mr. Speaker, I would like to ensure that my colleague understands that we're here to help Canadians, not just with food, but also with the cost of living. For example, daycare costs. Costs that are hard to plan for. Mr. Speaker, we ask our colleagues to follow what their leader said in his open letter. I ask them to be open to working with the government to help 12 million Canadians. Please.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, when I was back home in my riding, I had many conversations with people in my community about how important the school food program was to families in my riding of South Shore St. Margaret's. Can the Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Nature please update the House on how the government will deliver real, near-term relief for Canadians facing higher costs of living? Thank you.
Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Nature.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think it's great because the member from South Shore St. Mark's is going to be able to go back home this weekend and talk to families about the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. That is going to help a family of four with almost $1,900 a year. That's going to help over 12 million people right across the country. It's her hard work that's delivering these results. Not only that, we have made the National School Food Program permanent, the dental benefit supporting families, Canada Child Care, and the Canada Child Benefit. There's such a long list. I could go on forever. We're going to continue working for Canadians.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Eating healthily has become a luxury, Mr. Speaker. The numbers hurt. The price of beef is up by 16.8%, lettuce 12.8%, apples 10%. Under this government, preparing a simple salad has become a major investment, Mr. Speaker. Even coffee's 41% more expensive. When will the government stop taxing our farmers and our truckers? And will it commit today to cutting the industrial carbon tax and the tax on fuel standards? The Honourable Minister of Health. Well, I would like to thank my colleague for her question. And as Minister of Health, I absolutely want Canadians to eat well. And that is why we've put in place this measure today that will give Canadians more money in their pockets to help them get through these difficult times. So, as I was saying, in my riding, a family of four needs this help, and they'll receive almost $1,900 this year. So we are taking measures to help Canadians transition through this difficult time. The honourable member for Bellechasse, Des-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal announcement this morning is just a band-aid. It's not a real solution for the 2.2 million Canadians who are going to continue to go to food banks. Canada has the highest food inflation in the G7 because of Liberal taxes. And it's killing local businesses. 7,000 restaurants closed in 2025. 4,000 more will probably close this year. Will the government eliminate the tax that is making transport more expensive and making food more expensive? The Honourable Secretary of State for Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are helping Canadians with the cost of living by reducing costs with a rebate of almost $1,900 for a family of 4. That's on top of other investments like the tax cut for 22 million Canadians and a savings of $800 for children with young kids who benefit from the school food program. We're there to help Canadians and families go forward. The Conservative Party should stop with these games of obstruction in Parliament and support these initiatives.
Honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, if we judge the Prime Minister by prices at the grocery store, as he said, he's failed. Canada's food inflation now sits at 6.2%, the highest in the G7. Conservatives are ready to fast-track real relief by scrapping the industrial carbon tax, eliminating the ever-increasing fuel standards tax, boosting competition in grocery stores, and cutting red tape for farmers. When will the Prime Minister stop offering Band-Aid solutions and work with Conservatives to bring food prices down once and for all?
Well said. Well said.
Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefit will put food directly onto the tables of hardworking Canadian families. And not just a few, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about 12 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. But only Conservatives are willing to stand in the way of affordability for families that need a little bit of help, Mr. Speaker. This Liberal government has the backs of Canadians. Well, that Conservative leader turned his back on helping Canadians a long, long time ago. Now, Mr. Speaker, I know that Conservative leader is obsessed with his grip on power right now and probably can't focus on much else. But if he could focus on what Canadians need and helping them out at the grocery store, we could use his vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, enough with the temporary and recycled Trudeau-era rebates, and enough with blaming global factors when all the other countries have lower food price inflation than Canada. Yep. This is a homegrown problem, and we need long-term solutions. My recent visit to Simcoe Hall Food Bank with the Conservative leader was yet another reminder that more working families are struggling and visiting food banks. Will the Prime Minister stop treating the House of Commons as the House of Elites and finally work with Conservatives to bring food prices down for Canadians?
Yeah. The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, it's always pretty fresh to hear the Conservatives talk about elitism when they're talking down supports for hardworking Canadians, Mr. Speaker. 12 million Canadians are going to benefit from the Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefit, Mr. Speaker. And from a personal perspective, when my hardworking single mom got that benefit 4 times a year, that meant running shoes for me and my brother. That meant guitar lessons for me and my brother. That meant fresher food and maybe a trip to Swiss Chalet, Mr. Speaker. But those Conservatives have never cared about affordability or lower income families, Mr. Speaker. They're only here to help their rich oil and gas friends with this nonsense on hidden taxes that doesn't exist, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada now faces the highest food inflation in the G7. The government's response has relied largely on short-term relief measures that may ease pressure temporarily but do nothing to address the underlying drivers of rising food costs. Food affordability requires deeper structural action. Conservatives have put forward practical solutions, including eliminating the industrial carbon tax and fuel standards tax, boosting competition in the grocery sector, and cutting red tape for farmers. So will the government work with Conservatives to deliver lasting relief for Canadian families? Great question.
Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Day one, our focus has been on lowering costs for families and putting money in their pockets. Today's announcement of the new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit will give Canadians the relief they need. But more than that, Mr. Speaker, we have delivered a tax cut. We have protected the Canada Child benefit and grew it. We reduced childcare costs. We have cut the carbon tax, Mr. Speaker. We've delivered dental care.
building Canada Homes. We're building low affordable housing, Mr. Speaker. Made the National School Food Program permanent. Mr. Speaker, my question is, voters in Vaughan want this stuff. Why is the member obstructing? Get out of the way.
The honourable member for Battleford, Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if those measures worked, Canadians would actually be able to afford their groceries. Lettuce is up 12%, beef 16%, apples 10%, and even baby formula is up another 6%. After 10 years of Liberal inflation and taxes, Canada now leads the G7 with the highest food inflation. Conservatives are ready to fast-track solutions. Eliminate the industrial carbon tax, cut the fuel standards tax, boost grocery competition, and cut red tape for farmers. Will the Liberal government introduce legislation to implement these solutions and to work with us to finally lower the price of food for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Northern and Arctic Affairs. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure which Saskatchewan people that member is speaking with, Mr. Speaker, but the Saskatchewan people that I'm speaking to, they talk about the $10 a day daycare. They talk about the reduction of GSTs on home. They talk about the school food program. Now they'll talk about the Canada Groceries and Essential Benefit, $11.7 billion that'll help many Saskatchewan families, Mr. Speaker. Saskatchewan families don't ask for much, just a fair shot and some breathing room at the end of the month, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Oxford.
Liberal laws ended mandatory jail time for extortionists and released repeat violent offenders back on our streets. Since then, violent crime has doubled and extortion is up over 350%. Businesses, media studios, and homes are being shot at. Literally, we're seeing bullets fly through the bedrooms of our children. Canadians are terrified, and they feel like they're the ones on house arrest while the criminals walk free. So when will this Liberal government stop making excuses, work with us, take action, and protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, at the outset, let me just thank and congratulate the members of the RCMP for their work in the arrest of Ryan Wedding in collaboration with the FBI, Mr. Speaker. Ryan Wedding was the #1 wanted person in the United States, and this is the type of collaboration that law enforcement in Canada, working with the United States, can achieve. To the member's question, Mr. Speaker, we have 6 bills in front of the House that deal with public safety. The obstruction of the Conservative Party in passing not a single one of them is atrocious, Mr. Speaker. I invite this member opposite to pass these bills today.
The honourable member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, extortion cases are exploding, and it's a full-on crisis. In Surrey alone, police are responding to more than 1 case a day. Families and small businesses are terrified. Truckers are feeling the heat, and people feel abandoned by Justice Canada. After years of Liberal promises, the results speak for themselves. Crime is up and criminals walk free. Bill C5 and C75 strip mandatory minimums and entrench catch-and-release policies. When will this government work in good faith with the Conservatives to eliminate mandatory minimums for extortionists and repeal the catch-and-release laws that are hurting our country?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it is easy to make mistakes when you read a question that was handed to you from your party's whip, rather than actually do research to understand the facts on the ground. If the honourable member actually surveyed the statistics on violent crime in Canada, he would see the last 2 years there has been a reduction of crime in this country. The bills he points to actually made it harder for someone to get bail if they were charged with offences touching on intimate partner violence, and made house arrest impossible for serious charges, including advocating genocide, torture, and murder. Mr. Speaker, we have put forward a plan that is going to treat violent repeat criminals with serious laws that help protect communities against crime. I hope the Conservatives.
The honourable member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, since January 1st, there's been a minimum of 1 extortion case every single day in the Lower Mainland. Wow. These are real consequences of the Liberals' failure to take crime seriously. Families and businesses across Abbotsford and Surrey are terrified, and entire communities are living in fear. It's time for the Liberals to fix their soft on crime laws that have failed to keep innocent Canadians safe. When will the Liberals stop delaying, finally work with us, and restore mandatory minimum for extortionists and repeal their catch-and-release laws C5 and C75?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, in Canada, someone who commits extortion can serve up to 25 years in prison.
That's right.
We have the laws in place, Mr. Speaker, but we're going to improve on those laws. That's why we've put forward a bail and sentencing reform. I'm glad to see that it's progressing through committee. But one law, in fact, Mr. Speaker, that can really help in these cases is lawful access. It was the second bill we presented in this House. The Conservatives have been obstructing it all along. We had several different summits across this country, and what did law enforcement ask for? They asked for lawful access, Mr. Speaker. Stop the obstruction.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, in Beauport-Limoilou, as across the country, the cost of living is too high for many families. Our government has already taken concrete steps, such as cutting the consumer carbon tax, putting in place a tax cut for 20 million middle-class Canadians, and cutting the GST for first-time homebuyers. But we know that we can and should do more to help Canadians deal with inflation. Can the Minister of Finance please inform this House of concrete measures that we are taking to support families in Beauport-Limoilou and across the country?
No.
The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for that excellent question, because he's really shown Canadians all of the measures that we've taken to help people. And today, Mr. Speaker, it's 12 million Canadians across the country who can celebrate because we've put in place the new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. Mr. Speaker, this is going to make a real difference for families. It's going to allow the mom of a single family, to buy food, clothes for her kids. It's going to help Canadians across the country. We're always going to be there to help Canadians, and we're always going to build strong communities.
Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, last week was a devastating one for forestry workers and their families on Vancouver Island. Just outside Port McNeill, the Atlee chip plant announced it would be permanently closed. Curtailments announced in Ladysmith and Saltaire, and at the iconic Chemainus sawmill where my grandfather worked for 20 years. These were good-paying jobs, the type that built communities up and down Vancouver Island and right across BC. This government promised to stand with these workers, to have their backs. Instead, mills keep on closing, workers laid off. When will this government's actions and results finally live up to its rhetoric and its words?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government stands with forestry workers. We've announced $2.5 billion in supports. We have a task force active right now looking at additional supports. I was in Prince George last week. Members in Conservative ridings want results, and I want to tell you a little bit of a story, Mr. Speaker. Last time we talked about this in the House of Commons, we got suggestions from the NDP. We put them into effect. We got suggestions from the Bloc. We put them into effect. We got no suggestions from the Conservatives. We want their help. We want to support this sector. We're tired of hearing noun, verb, and no solution every time these guys open their mouth.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Here's a suggestion, Mr. Speaker. Drop the ideological 30 by 30 that stops forestry workers from doing their job. I appreciate my colleagues' comments on this issue. I do appreciate the government's promises of support, but forestry workers in my riding and across BC can't eat Liberal promises, and they can't pay their mortgage with a Liberal speech. They need action. They need results. They need this government to actually deliver something. Literally thousands of jobs have been lost. How many more mills have to close? How many more people have to be put out of work before this Liberal government steps up and takes this crisis?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
30 by 30, I can't think of a more out-of-touch comment. They're clearly not talking to people on the ground. These are not the challenges the sector faces. We need solutions, not obstruction from the members opposite. I am welcoming them to work with us. We want to help them out. We need their help because they are the people on the ground representing Conservative ridings with mills, and we're not hearing from them. They deserve better, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kenora, Kiwetinung.
Air Falls Sawmill has been shut down since October. The Ignace Mill is expected to close in March, and now 150 people will be affected by the closure of a line at Thunder Bay Pulp and Paper. Mr. Speaker, every day more closures are announced, and these are good-paying jobs for hardworking Canadians that are now gone. The government's rhetoric about supporting workers is not matching the reality of the workers who are losing their jobs. Conservatives stand ready in this House to support government actions that will save forestry jobs. So, Mr. Speaker, when will we finally see some action from this Liberal government?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, forestry, mill jobs, the forest sector in Canada is part of the very fibre of our country, part of the very fibre of our communities. The Parliamentary Secretary just outlined the many measures that we are putting in place to make sure that we protect those workers and those facilities against what is an ill-advised trade war that only increases the costs of housing in the United States and elsewhere. We're going to put those people to work producing wood, mass timber, building homes, Mr. Speaker. We're going to do that in the face of conservative...
The Honourable Member for Labrador.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have a proud history of standing with our allies during combat missions and during peacekeeping exercises. In my riding of Labrador, home of Canadian Forces Base Goose Bay, many families serve our country or stand behind our loved ones who do. When Canada's contributions are mischaracterized or minimized, it's important to set the record straight. Can the Minister of Veteran Affairs tell the House how Canada has stood alongside our allies and how we properly commemorate and recognize our veterans? Thank you.
Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague from Labrador for the question. When NATO invoked Article 5 after 9/11, we fought the Taliban alongside our allies in Afghanistan. 40,000 Canadians deployed. 158 CAF soldiers made the ultimate sacrifice. 30 Canadian soldiers received the U.S. Bronze Star for their bravery. The Canadian Armed Forces have and continue to make invaluable contributions around the world. As a nation, Canada will always stand with our allies, including the U.S. As Canadians, we stand behind the women and men in uniform who serve.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Every drop of Canada's iconic award-winning Crown Royal whiskey is proudly made in Gimli, Manitoba, using Manitoba grains and pure Interlake water. Unfortunately, Manitoba employees and farmers are worried because the government of Ontario is threatening to pull Crown Royal off the shelves of their liquor stores. The Prime Minister incorrectly claimed he has torn down interprovincial trade barriers when in fact he's been sitting on the sideline, and his silence on Ontario's threat to Manitoba is deafening. Will the Liberals stand up for Canadian jobs and pass the Conservatives' Canadian Sovereignty Act to remove barriers to interprovincial free trade?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-U.S. economic relations.
Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by wishing colleagues, of course, a Happy New Year, and particularly our friend from Manitoba who just asked the question, to thank the Conservative Party for their support last June in passing federal legislation in this House, Mr. Speaker, which did exactly that, eliminated all federal barriers to interprovincial trade. Now, Mr. Speaker, the challenge is to work with our partners in the provinces. Good news, the Prime Minister has the Premiers for dinner in Ottawa on Wednesday, an all-day meeting on Thursday, and we will be discussing exactly those issues of continuing to remove those barriers.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
In Edmonton, Strathcona, and across the country cannot wait until June to get help with their groceries. In 2022, the House passed legislation and there was an emergency payment done in weeks. Instead of making Canadians wait for months, will the Prime Minister work with the NDP to get help for Canadians immediately? And, Mr. Speaker, if they are interested in lowering the rate for groceries, will they please take the GST off all grocery essentials, finally impose a price tag and tax excess profits to stop Canadians getting gouged by big corporate interests? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, this morning the Prime Minister introduced the new Canada Groceries and Essential Benefits.
I look forward to returning to Alberta this weekend and sharing with my constituents that a family of 4 can receive up to almost $1,900 to help pay for groceries and other essentials. This is the kind of support Canadians are looking for. As Canadians, we look after each other. We're asking the opposition members to help us do just that.
I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the recipients of the 2025 Governor General's History Awards.